Hello, happy new year, and welcome to the Gear of the Week show here on the Golf Monthly YouTube channel. We are back for 2023 with a whole host of new equipment to talk about for the next few weeks. Today we're talking about new launches from Callaway and new launches from Srixon. Some very exciting drivers, fairways, hybrids, and irons to talk about in this episode. But first, I'll say hello to my colleagues, Neil Tappin, Joel Tadman. Neil, happy new year. How are you?
Happy New Year, Dan. I'm well, thank you. I've just played my first round of golf for 2023, January the 2nd. Golf course was bog-like. We've had a lot of rain over the Christmas period. And
it's was like that, isn't it?
It was somewhat muddy. Not great for those who don't. Anyone needing a bit more carry distance is really going to suffer at the moment because the ball was just plugging in the fairway. But it was great to be out, and I was able to test some new gear as well, which is always exciting.
Excellent, which we shall be talking about shortly. Hello, Joel. Happy New Year. How are you?
I'm very well, Dan. Thank you for asking. Not played golf yet in 2023. I did play late in 2022, and it was a bit of a horror show, to be honest with you. So hopefully 2023 brings some better fortune for me on the golf course.
It's just not a conducive time for good golf. So, let's keep our expectations low and spend some time at the range, maybe. And on that note, before we come on to the quiz question, which is always a feature on the Gear of the Week, and before we talk about all these new drivers and stuff, I'd like to hear some golf New Year's resolutions from you both. Something that you've got in your head that you want to achieve this year, maybe in golf. Neil, what's yours?
Mine is quite granular, Dan.
Okay.
So for the last 2 years, I have missed. So off the tee, looking at my Arcos data, for the last 2 years running, I've missed 36% of my fairways have missed right. So I'm gunning for anything 35% or lower right, please.
So is this the year of the duck hook for you then?
Some sort of draw-biased driver.
Just up to the range to work on my duck hook because I don't care. Because if I get it to 30%, then I'll be delighted even if I've missed every fairway left.
It's the year of the toe strike for Neil Tappin. Okay, excellent. Let's focus to the right, Joel.
So my resolution would be to work on my flexibility. As I'm getting older, I am becoming much more stiff. And when I get, when I get to the course, I can barely swing like a, half swing what I normally would do. So I need to work on my flexibility, invest in some resistance bands, that sort of thing. There's some good exercises online that I'm going to start doing before I play and during the week just to increase the mobility in my joints because I feel like that really is holding me back and actually reducing the amount of distance that I'm generating off the tee.
Especially
I like that one a lot. I don't know how we're going to quantify it by the end of the year. Maybe if you can touch your toes or something, we'll work on it. I don't know. We'll come up with something.
Never been able to do that, so
well, there we go. Maybe this is the year.
Stretched too far. There you go.
Good. Very funny. Okay, mine is similar to yours, Joe. I've got two. Firstly is to stop playing golf straight out of the car park. I love a car park first tee swing and just car park clubs first tee, have a really bad first 3 holes and then wonder why I'm not playing that well. So I'm going to stop doing that. So, incorporate at least a warm up, maybe even a putt, I don't know, something. And then I would like to get down below 6 as my index because I think I'm 8.5 at the minute and I want to be a playing single figure handicapper because at the minute I normally get 10 or 11 at most places. So I'd like to be an official single figure handicapper. And I think that will help by warming up. So I'm confident I can do that this year. I think is at least warm up a little bit. We'll see. We'll reflect at the end of the year, chaps. See how if Joel can touch his toes and if Tapper's found the left of the course somewhere. Before we get started, again, another one. We've got to start with the quiz question. Neil, I had a shocking end of 2022. I don't think I got one right since about October.
Not just the end, just 2022 is not your year.
Just 2022, no.
Was it? Okay, well, I'm going to kick off with a very simple question. So 2023 will see which major golf hardware brand celebrate its 50th anniversary?
I do know this one, and I'm very happy.
Oh, you got it. Oh, well done.
But Joel looks like he's having a moment.
Oh, no, Joel. The tables are turned. Now, to those people watching this should not feel ashamed if they don't know the answer to this. I would never have known the answer to this. I'll be honest with you. If I didn't work in the golf industry and hadn't had a meeting with the particular brand that they told me.
Agreed. I was in a particular presentation with this particular brand. To the layman, I'm not sure they're going to know. What are you looking at over there, Joel?
Charles googling.
You can't sneak that.
I'm not googling. I had some notes out from a particular brand we're going to talk about, but it doesn't look like it's them.
It's
so
not. It's not one of the brands we're talking about today.
Oh, you might have given it away there, Dan, by saying you were in a meeting with them.
I was.
So is it Cobra?
It's Cobra. 50 years of Cobra.
For the record, I would not have guessed that, and I did not know that. So, Dan, you've done yourself out of a point there.
Gave it away there. That's really frustrating.
It's a draw.
It's a draw. It's a terrible draw. We don't like draws. But yeah, I think they're launching, some 50th anniversary celebratory things this year. So look out for them in some fun colorways, etc. Good question though, Neil. And thank you for giving me a home run to start the year. Appreciate that.
I did think you might get that one. I didn't set the question in order to give you an easy one to start off the year, but I did wonder if you might get that. So
thank you anyway. And if anyone got that at home, watching, wherever you're watching, well done, because that feels like a golf industry one, to be fair, unless you know your Cobra stuff. But very good. Thank you, Neil. Okay, right, enough chit chat. It is January. It is new equipment season. And we've got two to talk about today, from Callaway and from Srixon. We've got the Callaway Paradym sets of clubs. We've got drivers, fairways, hybrids, and irons. And we've got the Srixon ZX MKII. Both very exciting. We're going to start with Callaway, just because I'm slightly more excited by this one. And that's because of how it looks for me, chaps. Now, I haven't been able to hit these yet. I have these in hand. I know you two have been able to hit them and test them extensively. So I'm going to ask you sort of a bunch of questions on this today. But what do we first think about? We'll flash the drivers up now. Neil, what do we think about the looks? And what do you think about the name? Because this is, when I first heard this name, I was a little bit, I thought, well, that's quite a bold name. Sort of thinking how Paradym's normally spelt. And then I love what they've done with the Paradym. I think it looks great on the bottom of the clubs. And I think it looks really interesting as well. So Neil, I want to hear your first impressions of it.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the name is a really interesting part, because we've been used to having recurring family names coming year after year. So Epic being one, Rogue being another. So you sort of fall into what you think is a cycle where you can kind of understand what Callaway might have coming. The fact that they've changed it and the fact that they've gone with a name like Paradym would suggest that they feel as if this particular product, I mean, I'm going to fall into the kind of cliche, but it feels like they're saying we've got a big shift, a paradigm shift coming in our performance of our golf clubs. Now, what they've done in terms of the tech is certainly in the drivers is they have, and I'm not sure if it's the same in the fairway woods. Joe, you might have to jump in and tell me, but in the driver they have this 360-degree carbon chassis. So there's no titanium holding the chassis of the body together. So for the first time from Callaway, they have a driver without any titanium in the body of the club, which is a big weight-saving thing, which they've been able to position elsewhere in the driver, in particular to improve the forgiveness. Now, in order to kind of highlight the technology that they've got within this driver, they've gone for quite a striking look, because there's no point in having a big striking new technology and not kind of waving your arms up in the air and saying, look at what we've done here. So they've introduced this sort of, it's a kind of a bluish, I don't know what the exact name of the color is. It's a bluish finish. You can see the kind of carbon effect at play underneath the crown and underneath the sole, but it has a sort of slightly glossy finish on the crown. So it's not a matte crown, it's a shiny crown, but it has beneath it this blue carbon effect. It is quite different to anything else I've seen. And when it's cloudy out, I don't think it's particular. It is noticeable, but it's not particularly striking. When the sun comes out, you'll really see it. So it is a really interesting point of difference to what the other things that are going on within the driver market. They also have this sort of black leading edge to the crown as well. So you've got this sort of two-tone look as you set down behind the ball. I think it looks really good. I think the technology is exciting. And I mean, I don't think, let's talk about performance in a sec. Joel, what did you, Joel, you saw it. Would you concur with what I said there?
Yeah, I think the look is really good, actually. Really striking. You kind of touched on the construction of it. You know, this isn't something that's ever been done before. Like, this is genuinely a groundbreaking design. I think the closest anyone's ever got to taking metal completely out of the middle of the head is the Sim 2 driver, which had the aluminium ring around the side. So it kind of went nearly all the way there, but not quite. So to be able to completely take away any metal, essentially having, a metal piece at the front and a metal piece at the back. The metal piece at the front is going to give you the ball speed. The metal piece at the back is going to give you the forgiveness. In the case of Paradym, some adjustability as well. And the weight savings that they've done here is significant. So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, we're going to talk about the performance in a second, but I think so a big shift in driver design, in the sound and feel as well. I think that design is going to really alter the way the acoustics come through your ears, the way you interpret how this driver sounds and feels, because it is a big difference on where we were with Rogue ST Max.
Yeah, I picked up one of the cutaway versions of these golf clubs where they break down all the different parts, and that middle part, the carbon chassis, I mean, it weighs hardly anything at all. You just think, wow, that's amazing that they're able to build this into a club, and it has the sort of structural integrity not to fall apart when you hit the ball. It really is. It is an impressive piece of tech. I mean, the price has gone up over what it would have over what we saw with Rogue ST last year. I know that in pounds, I think these drivers come in at 599. So that's, an important part to say. But I think that clearly Callaway are positioning themselves as a high-tech brand with some interesting new technologies that are promising golfers more performance.
Yeah, I think the price is everything we have to talk about. It's a bit of an elephant in the room with this one, I think. But for me, you guys chatting about the color and just the pictures I've seen, like I said, I've not seen it in hand yet, but that sort of that deep, is it more blue in person? It looks almost turquoisey on images, but that beautiful sort of, especially the bottom sole, I think it matches that price. And we'll be interested to see if retailers do actually push it out at 599. But
what's interesting about that, Dan, is that the every driver is actually going to be slightly different. So the pattern on the sole will be slightly different. It's not a consistent finish.
No, because it's all sort of almost like there's like I've got my vocabulary's left me here. It's sort of it's got a flow to it almost. There's almost like this, so it's going to be different for everyone. Again, that's pretty desirable. I'm into it. I'm into this paradigm shift we're seeing, I think.
Well, I had a chance to test all three of the heads, and I hit them
which of the three heads? Sorry, we need to. What three heads are on offer in the drivers?
Okay. Oh yeah, good point. So there is a standard Paradym. There's a Paradym X, which has a bit more of a draw bias built in. Yeah. You can imagine the sort of thing slightly stretched out, I think, from memory, the view of it from above. And then a triple diamond version of that driver, which is much more compact. I think it's 450cc, so it's smaller. And it is designed to be lower spinning. I think you can manipulate that spin as well to make it super low spinning if you're a higher spinning player, if you're someone with fast swing speed who's looking to control that flight.
So have we lost the LS from the range, the LS that we've got in the Rogue ST? We've just got the three of a draw bias, the low spinning one's a triple diamond, and then the standard.
We have. Yeah, that's right. Okay. And I think that actually that what I'm seeing a bit of a trend, I think, and we'll talk about this with the Srixon launch that we've got coming as well. There's some really interesting things happening at both ends of the driver market. So those people who want something with a high draw and those people who want to control their spin, there's some quite interesting things happening at both ends from each of the brands. And I think for me, I tested the triple diamond and it was an absolute rocket. I carried this an average, and I'm not trying to say this to boast, but just looking at the data I've got from it, the average was 290. So I had 114 club speed, 167 ball speed, 290 average total. Now up against the Rogue ST, so the previous version triple diamond, that was an 11-yard gain, predominantly because I was able to control the spin more. So it was 500 RPM less, launched it a little bit higher. So it did offer me a bit more performance, but I did not have as much control over the triple diamond as I had with the standard Paradym. And I think this is one of those really important things that when people go through their own driver testing, fitting, when they're going for a fitting, it's how long does it take you to get what you feel are representative numbers. So I was able to pick up the standard Paradym and just felt like I was in control of it from the first hit. Just really loved how user-friendly it was, how easy it was to hit straight. With the triple diamond, it was longer for me, and I can tell you how much longer it was. 3 yards longer on average, but probably, and that's carry, so probably longer overall. Yeah. But it took me longer to get the sort of what I felt was like sort of robust data, because I was hitting a few, frankly, as my miss tends to be, a few out to the right.
Is it going right? Yeah.
Whereas the standard Paradym I was in more control of. Now, I think I watched Joel hit a few, because Joel and I tested everything at the same time. You hit a few shots with that triple diamond version of the Paradym as well, didn't you?
Yeah, so like out the middle, when it goes, but when you slightly mishit it, it does curve a bit more offline. Like it's not as stable as the other one. So like on the course, if you're utilizing a lot of the club face, you're also going to be utilizing a lot of the golf course. Whereas if you're pretty consistent with your ball striking, I think the triple diamond is going to really, as you've seen the gains you've had, it's really going to give you the rewards of extra distance. But if you're an inconsistent player, you might want to opt for something a bit more forgiving. So it's that trade-off. It's always that trade-off between distance on your good ones and accuracy on your bad ones that people have to weigh up.
That's where, John, I think the drivers of 2022 and 2023 really are. That's where the game is being played. Each of the brands will come to market promising people more distance, and frankly, people probably will get more distance because especially if they go for a good fitting. The fitting will help unlock a few extra yards. The clubs themselves may well help to unlock a few extra yards. But really, I think where the gain is going to be seen, or should be seen, is around consistency, and how when you don't make your best swing and you don't hit the ball from the middle, how what you see, the ball flight that you see, won't be as radically different as you may have found with clubs 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago.
Yeah, Callaway are talking a lot about downrange dispersion, aren't they, with this new product line? So yes, it's always going to be long, but they're very much talking about how it's going to be long with additional control as well, which I think we can all benefit from.
Yeah, excellent. And reading Carly Frost's review of the Paradym X, so the draw bias one, she kind of concurs with, especially with who that driver's aimed at, the draw bias. She says it's just really easy to hit, feels like you can't miss it, sort of thing. So you can see, as you were alluding to, Neil, at either end of the spectrum, including the middle one, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on here. Finally, on the drivers, we'll move on to the fairways and hybrids then. Big improvement from Rogue ST, enough for you, or is this more of a, if your driver's 3 or 4 years old, here's a big product?
For me, it's not a huge improvement over Rogue ST. And actually, what Joel said at the start about sound and feel, I didn't think there was a massive difference in terms of sound and feel. I felt as if the new version might have actually been a little bit livelier, felt a little bit louder, but only a fraction. I think the differences in terms of sound were quite small. I think that the Paradym drivers are an improvement, but I don't think it's a sort of, wow, everyone's going to notice consistently out on the golf course that they're 10 yards further. I think some people may well be, but I think actually the improvements are those kind of incremental changes that happen generation over generation. And I think people will see, or should see, especially if they get a good fitting, that they are more in control. They'll get more distance, of course, but they should also find themselves more in control.
And for me, the name's a winner for me now, especially the way it looks. I'm into it, and I'm really into that color. So I think it looks great. I think people should definitely go and test this thing out. It looks like a lot of fun. I like it. Should we move on to fairways? Oh, that was actually thank you for reminding me. What is the head cover like? This is important. Is it like what colorway is it going for? Is it the bluish one, or is it white?
It's mostly white with a bit
of blue, isn't it, and gold.
Nice. Okay, excellent. Good. Tick for the head cover then. Let's move on to the fairways and hybrids. Joel, again, similar. Is the look as similar? Are we getting as much of the blue? I'm just trying to look at the bottom of the fairway now. We've got the sort of orangey weight in the front there of the Paradym fairway. What are your thoughts on these looks performance wise?
Well, the fairways are a little bit different. They don't have any carbon fiber on them, so you're not getting the Paradym shift as much with the fairways as you are the drivers. But interesting, there's a few different models. There's triple diamond, there's the X version as well, so a lot of options to choose from. And interestingly, these have an adjustable hosel for the first time since Epic Flash. So a lot of Callaway fairways down the years have had fixed hosels, but now they've gone back to adjustable hosels. So you can tweak these a bit more, as well as having different models to choose from. You've got different settings to choose from to really kind of dial them in. So that should help people hit their distance gaps and get the ball flight they want to see, whether they're using it off the tee or the fairway, or a bit of both.
Okay, excellent. And then does this paradigm shift translate to the irons as well, Joel? Because we do have irons in this paradigm range as well. Just talk us through what these are, who they're aimed at, and how they felt.
Well, these are game improvement irons. There's two. There's the Paradym and the Paradym X. Paradym is pretty strong. 7 iron, I think, it's like 29.5. So it's stronger than anything in the Apex line. It's geared for distance. And then you've got the X one, which is even stronger. So if you're looking for maximum distance, that's obviously going to give you that. Kind of size wise, a bit of crossover with the Apex DCB. So like a a cavity back style size. This is a hollow head. It's got this funky little speed frame with holes in it, which I'll flash up on the screen now. It's quite a unique construction actually, and there's a lot of tech gone into this iron. So it will produce a really lively feel with all the technology that's been incorporated into it. I tested it. I'm not a fan of chrome finishes on irons. Callaway always seem to pursue this strategy when designing their game improvement irons. If you like a shiny finish on your irons, you're going to like it. But it's got that look of a compact distance iron to it. A bit of thickness to the top line, but still the blade length actually from heel to toe is a lot shorter than I thought it was going to be. So it actually kind of frames the ball quite nicely. It's not too chunky or oversized. It's a nice size. The dimensions kind of balance each other pretty well, and it's long. It was longer than I was expecting it to be. It was as long as the Rogue ST Max iron for me, which is comparable in loft. So I was really impressed with the firepower it has, given how the size is relatively slimline.
Can I just say, I think it also has really good shelf appeal as well. Callaway know what they're doing in terms of making their clubs stand out, and clearly the irons are part of the family. They have that same kind of bluish finish on the back of the iron. I don't know, I'm going to say something that sounds like I'm being completely contradictory, but it's high tech, but also quite simple and sleek looking at the same time. It's quite difficult to pull that off, and I think they've done it really well with those irons.
Yeah, definitely. And before we move on then, and we're not quite at a stage where we can compare it to other releases of 2023 just yet, so we can't do that, but impressions of the Callaway Paradym, chaps, in a couple of sentences, the whole range. Impressed, like in the looks, like in the performance?
Yeah, I was impressed. I think that the looks match the tech story. The looks live up to the kind of promise of premium performance in terms of the tech. It kind of all comes together to entice you. It's quite an enticing range of products, and in terms of the performance from the drivers that I hit, very good indeed.
Yeah, I think Callaway want us to feel like it's a bit of a milestone in golf club innovation, and it definitely feels like more of a shift. Pardon the pun. Obviously, we talked a lot about shifts already.
It's so easy to. I've seen you both talking for the last few minutes, trying not to say paradigm shift. It's quite an addicting thing to say.
I feel like they're definitely moving on innovation a lot more than they have done in the past. Obviously, continuing to use AI as well is a factor, and I think golfers will if you're, like you said, if your driver's a year or two old, then I think you will really see some gains with Paradym if you're supposed to go through that custom fitting process, because there's a lot of tech gone into it, and our testing has shown that it's right up there. It's going to be up there, if not leading those distance categories in terms of irons and drivers and other areas as well.
Brilliant. Okay, well, the Paradym range, I believe, is available from February the 24th in the UK and the US. So not long, and I'm sure your local retailers will have the demos in stock ready to go. So that's quite exciting to start the year, isn't it? The Paradym shift from Callaway. Let's move on to Srixon then. We've got the ZX Mark II range. This launches 20th of January in the US, March the 1st in the UK. We've got drivers, fairways, and hybrids to talk about here. Who wants to kick us off with ZX Mark II?
I'll just kick us off by saying that Srixon have made very good. I'm going to talk about the drivers in particular, but metalwoods generally have made really good metalwoods for the last few years that have been used out on tour by the likes of Shane Lowry. I know that Hideki has used them as well. The products are really strong, and those who've hit them tend to really speak very highly of them. So when I heard that Srixon had some new ZX woods coming, and that Srixon themselves were really excited about what these woods had in store, I was quite excited about that, because I thought, okay, I think this could be a real sort of contender, another brand to kind of throw their hat in the ring with something that's really going to work for golfers. And in terms of the drivers, there are 3 to choose from. There's the ZX5 Mark II, which I have next to me.
Excellent.
Which is, here it is. That's the slightly bigger of the, so there's a ZX5 Mark II, a ZX5 Mark II low spin, and a ZX7. So this is the sort of largest of the 3 drivers. It has a sort of matte black crown with some very subtle sort of silver elements to the back of the crown here, and a subtle silver alignment aid that you can barely see there on the front of the face. It's all very simple and all very classic. As I say, when you move towards the ZX7 Mark II, it becomes even more compact, more shrink down, more traditional looking. And they all have this thing called, the technology in them is called a rebound frame, which I'm definitely not intelligent enough to be able to explain to you exactly how it works. But what I will say is that it flexes in 2 different types of ways to improve the energy transfer back into the ball. So to make sure that you have better energy transfer across the face for more distance. That's the kind of headline technology. There's a few other things to talk about as well, but that's them. And I'm not going to talk about performance just yet, but I did like them.
We like them. Okay, excellent. For me, love a classic look. Just nice and simple, as you said, nicely framed. The name's a bit of a mouthful. I don't know. That's just ZX. I'm surprised I got Mark II. I've never seen a club go for the Mark II before. Do love a matte crown. I know there's a lot more gloss crowns coming this year in drivers. Do like the matte crown. Joel, what are your thoughts? Because Srixon are probably underrated, perhaps, or not as well regarded by some sort of club golfers because of the bigger brands out there. There's the ZX7, the slightly smaller one. Do you think the Mark II version of these clubs are going to be able to sort of stick their elbows out a little bit and get people interested?
I think so. I think if you try them, as Neil alluded to, you'll really enjoy what they have. And the testing I've done of previous versions of these drivers from Srixon is that they're more than comparable with any other brand that's out there. You know, all the leading brands, TaylorMade, Titleist, Ping, and Callaway. You know, Srixon, a well-fitted Srixon driver is going to perform just as well as anything else, and it often comes in a position slightly underneath those brands in terms of price, which adds an element of appeal to that sort of brand. And as Neil said, there's a lot of success going on tour with Srixon drivers, with those players that he's mentioned. So I think they've got the credibility out on tour. They've got the technology and the innovation and the R&D that goes into it, and the performance seems to back it up.
Go on then, Neil. How did they perform in your testing? How were they, you know, for distance, for control? You know, we can compare it to older models, or we maybe compare it to the Paradym we've already spoken about. You know, where's it going to sit in this market? So
of the 2 drivers, the 7 for me was by far the better, performed better for me. The 5 is bigger, and as a result, for me, was a little bit slower. Didn't have as much club head speed, didn't have as much ball speed. But was forgiving, as they say it's going to be. The 7 is designed to be more workable but less forgiving, and that's kind of what I saw. But the 7, for me, that workability I really liked. I liked it on the launch monitor when I hit it first time because it was giving me that bit of extra distance. But when I took it out on the golf course and I felt like I could stand on a tee and hit the sort of shot that I was trying to imagine in my own mind, that's when I really, really liked it. I think it's long. It wasn't as long. I mean, I didn't hit it on the same day that I hit the Callaway. It's important to say that I hit them on separate days, but my average carry distance with the ZX7 Mark II was 276, which is pretty good. But it was spinning up for me just a fraction at 31.36. So I would want to get that spin down a bit, which I would be able to do, probably bring down the loft a bit. I had it at 9.5. So ultimately what I'm saying is I think I could get it to a point where it was performing really well for me in terms of distance. But again, a bit like what I said with the standard version of the Paradym, that ZX7 Mark II driver was incredibly consistent for me. I took it out on the golf course yesterday, and I didn't lose a golf ball. And that's the first
Huge.
time in a while I've played golf and I lost a golf ball because I haven't been driving it particularly well. I felt like I was in more control of it, which is what I saw on the launch monitor. And I think that partly I end up swinging it better and therefore hitting it a bit further when I know where it's going.
Yeah.
So I'm sure everyone.
I mean, on average, you would for sure if you're feeling in more control of it, and that's something people got to look out for when they go for a driver fitting.
It also has a titanium crown, and actually that would be a point of difference between the Callaway driver and this one. This one does feel slightly different. It's definitely a slightly higher pitch, slightly louder impact sound than I thought I was able to get with the Callaway, albeit I only tested the Callaway indoors, so it's quite hard to pick up on that. When I took the Srixon out onto the course, it definitely felt like a titanium crown, titanium head driver, slightly higher pitch, slightly louder. I like the way that it sounded. It didn't sound too loud. It was powerful without being quite as powerful for me as some of the other drivers, as the sort of carbon composite drivers are. For me, one of the biggest gains, I think, is for people who are in search of quite a traditional looking, compact looking driver. If you are someone that wants to work the ball off the tee, then there are some really, really good options currently on the market for you. I thought that when I tested the Titleist TSR4, which is noticeably much more compact to look at down behind the ball than the other Titleist drivers. And it was a very similar story with the triple black diamond version of the Callaway Paradym. And here as well with the ZX7. Now, the ZX7 will probably be slightly bigger than the other two drivers I've just mentioned there. But one thing that I think, which regardless of which brand you're interested in and which direction you want to go in, I think with each of those, in the past, you might have been interested in going for a traditional looking compact driver, and you would be really giving up in terms of a lot of forgiveness. I don't think that's the case now. I think there is forgiveness that you can be more forgiveness to be found elsewhere, but I don't think the compromise is quite as big as it has been in the past. Certainly not with the ZX7. I thought that was very, very consistent. So really impressed and quite exciting, actually.
Yeah, it feels like one of those clubs that if you're after a new driver this year, get it in your hand, give it a go. I know Srixon don't shout as much potentially about their drivers as some other brands, but I think we think they should. And I think if you're looking for one, just go get one in your hands. Just go see what it's like. See if you sort of agree with Neil and Joel on that one. And the head cover, Neil, of course, nice. What are your thoughts?
There it is. There it is.
I quite like that. I like a boxing glove one.
Rebound frame.
Yeah. Okay,
simple. We
like that head cover as well.
Goes with what's underneath. Simple, classic.
Be weird if it didn't, to be fair. Quickly wrapping up on the ZX Mark II stuff then. Joel, we've got fairways and hybrids as well. And fairways got a pretty interesting look, actually. There's only one fairway, interesting crown. Sort of sum up these two clubs for us in this range.
Yeah, like really simple offerings in the fairway and hybrid. You know, there's no 5 or 7. It's just one model in the fairway, one model in the hybrid. No adjustability on the hosel either, so just fixed hosels. And with the fairway woods, you've got carbon fiber crowns in the 3 and the 3+. 3+ being the slightly stronger fairway wood. So that I've found in testing, and I know Martin Hopley, who's done some testing for us, has found those with the weight savings they've taken from the crown to launch really nicely. So obviously you want that from a fairwood. You're hitting it a lot off the deck. So these seem to pick the ball off the turf really nicely. So that's definitely a big plus on the fairway woods. And then the hybrids have a very nice shape to them. So they haven't got a stepped crown like the fairway woods. A lot more kind of neutral in their shape. They're not toe heavy. I think they're going to suit like a wide spectrum of players. And interestingly, in our testing, hybrids do tend to have a bit of a left bias to them, but this one was pretty neutral in its ball flight. So I think that's going to appeal again to a lot of players, but maybe even better players who don't like maybe hitting the long irons as much. They want something a bit more forgiving, easy launching. I think they're going to enjoy what they see in the ZX Mark II Hybrid.
Yeah, I like how they've kept that really simple as well, as you said, Joel. Just one model. Just a ZX Mark II fairway, a ZX Mark II hybrid. Nice and simple. Go find your loft. Go and enjoy it. I think that step crown on the fairway wood might be a little bit divisive again. Kind of thing you want to go get in your hand, I think, especially with all these Srixon clubs. So brilliant. Well, there we go, chaps. Our first 2 launches of 2023 in the books. If you head down to the description of this video, I will have put all the reviews that all of the clubs we've spoken about. So if you want to dive in, a little bit deeper to these and see what our reviewers thought of these clubs, go and click on them. While you're down there, give this video a like, subscribe, hit the little bell icon as well, because you'll be notified when the next Gear of the Week episode comes out, because we've got a lot more launches to cover this January and into February as well. If you've got any questions for us, any comments on the new clubs we've spoken about, get down in those comments. We'll endeavour to answer them. We'd love to hear from you on your thoughts on how these clubs look, whether you want to go and try them or not. Do let us know. But that will do for this episode. We'll be back on Tuesday, the 10th of January, with 3 very, very exciting launches. So as I said, hit that bell button. You'll be notified when the video launches, and you'll hear about all these exciting new clubs. I think that's about it, chaps. Neil, thank you very much. Thanks for your insights today.
Thanks, Dan.
Cheers, Joel. We'll see you in a couple of days.
Always a pleasure.
And thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.